Okay, and okay, so this should work now. I turned the Wi-Fi off. Who wants to use their data, but at the same time, ain't nobody got time for janky broadcasts. Okay, so well, at least not today. Welcome. This is the Composite. We were formerly a nighttime enterprise, and now I'm on during the day mostly, and mostly Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so we're a talk show, and we're just talking generally about stuff that's going on, in the world, a little bit of stuff that's going on with me. Let's see. Now I have a list here that's quite interesting, and you'll see why in a second. It's just, again, a random hodgepodge of things I want to talk about. Firstly, right, an announcement. So let me pull up this thingamadoodle here. So, if you've not seen this broadcast before, I am a writer and a teacher, and I just am nosy. I'm interested in the world, and that's the perspective that I try to use or employ for the show. I feel like I'm introducing myself, which is weird in season 3. Something just felt formal for some reason, so I'm gonna go with it. So firstly, an announcement, and I'll be moving here. Let's see if we can get this a little higher. Aha, there we go. No studio equipment yet, right? This is strictly for the people that appreciate amateur enterprises. All right. So, firstly, an announcement, right? So I am a writer and a teacher, and one of my favorite writers, I just found out yesterday that she is releasing a new book on my birthday. So this is really special. Hold on a second here. All right. So, I'm using a work computer here because this is not anything crazy. So I think I can look this up here. I try to keep that stuff separate though. All right, so, it's not showing. Okay, yes. Cemetery of Untold Stories. Yay! And this is Julia Alvarez, okay? So, again, imperfect here. But I just want to let you know that this is happening in New York City at the Center for Fiction. And it will be on April 2nd. And look who's hosting. I love both of these ladies. Such amazing writing out of both of them. Goodness. Right? So I'm going to turn this back around because it's not as successful as I would like. Okay. All right. So that is that. And so she'll be interviewed about that new book Tuesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. Right. So if you're in New York, check out the Center for Fiction and buy a ticket and buy a book. This is great. I'm going to have to keep my little pause to myself here because it's like, I don't have any books right now. And I've been repurposing or getting books from other people. And so I've been like, oh yeah, I can still do these book hauls even though I'm not purchasing them. But that is one where realistically, I'll see if they have it if I check my public library, maybe, I don't know, like April 5th, maybe they'll be able to tell me when they'll have a copy in. But, the problem when you get a new the problem when you get, so I put this shit all the way up here, only just to sit down. Okay, Deanne. Nice. All right. So the problem when you buy a hardback, when you borrow one from the library is usually they only give it to you for 7 days, or I'm a slow reader, so I need more than a week. But yeah, I'll see if they have it April 5th. I want to check that out, especially because of the plot. It's about a writer that buries unsuccessful drafts in her backyard and they come to life. I'm already on board. I love it. So Julia Alvarez, check it out. So that was my announcement. The second thing that I want to talk about is why I was late today. So I wanted to go live at 11:30, and I was awake. There was a lunar eclipse on Monday, yesterday, the 25th. Mercury goes into retrograde on Monday, the 1st, and then there was a solar eclipse on Monday, the 8th. So I'm gonna be in a rough patch right now. Why is that the case? Because I'm coming into Ram season, right? Aries season. And I have 4 or maybe 5 Aries placements. So this is a ton of shit going on in my season. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that I can feel it's throwing my sleep off, right? Because we, recently just had daylight savings, and that always gets me for about a week. And then again, all of these astrological occurrences, right? And I'm can't fall asleep. I'll fall asleep at let's say 4:15, and then I wake up, at 7:30 or something. And so I've been awake this morning since I want to say 8:15, something like that. But I was like, oh God, I didn't get any rest really. And then, but I couldn't fall asleep though. That was the thing. I was like, oh, can I fall asleep? And then wake up at 10 and then prep and then do the show. It's just no, you're just going to sit here and be annoyed that you can't fall back asleep. And then you start sweating, right? Because bringing us to our first topic, menopause. Yeah. So I started late last year hot flashing. Now, this is not something that I anticipated sharing today, but, given, I was just visibly glistening, and, I was spending that time sopping up my face and stuff. And so I guess for me, it's just been, I would say since after Thanksgiving. No, officially in December. December and January, I don't know what the heck was going on. I started taking COVID tests again because I was like, what is physically wrong with me? I was exhausted. I had zero energy. And then, again, every night, I want to say around 9 p.m., it was just flashing, right? And it's just the beads of sweat and everything. And I'm like, nobody, I think older women do talk about hot flashes, but nobody really talks about actual menopause and how extensive this shit is, right? So I'm thinking, when it starts or when it happens or whatever, it'll be a couple of years and then, it'll be over. If it's bad, I'll ask about hormone therapy, whatever. But no, this is serious. It just feels like, how have these hot flashes been feeling? It's just the way you can't get comfortable. It's just this furnace emanating from you. And it's just kind of what the hell? It's barely spring. Am I going to have to turn on the air conditioning? Because I haven't actually done that yet. I think that's definitely a line across. But yeah, it's just holy crap, this is sweat, I'm pouring buckets of sweat. Now I remember, because I used to be a lot heavier than I am now. And then, so when I was at my heaviest, I remember I would sweat a lot because, even, somewhat trivial things 3 or 4 flights of stairs or something like that. It would be a lot of exertion. And so I'd be sweating. So I don't sweat because of that anymore. But now it's okay, your body is preparing for its next stage. And there's definitely a lot of grief around that. It's just I'm wow, I thought I had more time. What I've started to experience since December, I really thought that would be more of a conversation for 47, 48. Nope. Now, I, just in terms of cycle stuff, I won't go into details, right? I want to make this, accessible to everyone. I can't think of a good word, but And the brain fogs, that's been happening too. Yeah, so I thought it was a process that I thought would start later, and then just, it's intense. And then it's like, when it was really bad in December, it was happening like 5 or 6 times a day when I was like cycling through. And it would be like, okay, overheat for 15, 20 minutes, sweat, take everything off, like shower, change, or, just change if I'd already showered. And then like, okay, I'm going through this again. And so then it calmed down in February. But then now I'm noticing since yesterday it started up again. So I'm like, what? I don't even know how this shit works. Like, because giving you an example, right? So you can say generally, right? People that menstruate, like, the typical cycle is 28 days, and some people are longer, some people are shorter, just average periods, X to X days. I mean, mine are long, so we won't go by that, but like, let's say 5 to 7 days or something, or 5 days max for normal cycles, whatever. But when it's like, when I'm looking up symptoms and stuff, or talking to doctors about, okay, so if this is premenopause, like, what is it going to look like? It can just be an erratic, like, it's just chaos. And so this is a major body function that my body's been performing since I was 10 years old, consistently, never, ever missed, ever, until this year. And so it's like, oh, this is a new reality. And so it's like, again, I don't presume that so many people want to hear about this, but where do you take this, right? Because it's not, or at least maybe I'm just not dialed in. I just feel like people don't really talk about it. It's just like, okay, menopause is something that can take up to 10 years. So it can be up to a 10-year transition. And there's not really, it doesn't seem to me enough space to like help. What happens when I was on, Christmas break, or winter break. But what happens when that happens when I'm teaching and there are buckets of water pouring off of me and I'm standing in front of students? Like, I have to have a way to manage this. So that's just a new part of my reality. And so today, at 11:30, actually at 11:29, it had these 2 rivulets of sweat went like this, and then it started coming down here. And I was just like I had started feeling overheated, let's say 5 minutes before, but then it was just waterworks. I was like, what the fuck? So I was like, I can't start the show at 11:30 looking like that. So like, I mopped it up or whatever. And then I had, my moisturizer and sunscreen on. So I had to clean that up. Probably didn't even get it all. So, I just want to say to women, or, again, if you don't identify as a woman, but, you experience premenopausal symptoms. Goodness, I can't even talk. Like, I'm loopy, y'all. So if you experience that, like, I'm just sending you my empathy. And because, there's other stuff happening too. The other stuff is it's more like of an effect psychologically. It's less of an effect physically, at least at the moment. But yeah, this is not what I thought it would be. I thought it would be just a linear, like I said, 2-3 years and then menopause. No, it's just, you go forward, you come back, and you kind of just hang out in this weirdness. So that's where I am. I think those discussions do need to be happening, and hopefully younger people can be involved as well. I just think, like, the things that I know now, I definitely would have frozen eggs when I was in my 20s, because you just, that's biology. You just don't have the time that you would like, or that you think you deserve, or I don't know. but it's rough. It's rough. And I'm not complaining per se, because I'm at the beginning. I can't imagine, like, from December and January were the worst. So what I experienced then, like thinking about that stretching out for years, I'm like, and I talked to, some older women I know. I won't like say who, just because, she didn't authorize me to say anything. But, I've talked to, let's say, two older women about hormone therapy, and they don't do it because they're like, oh, it might, some of them I think have concerns around cancer and things like that. But just based on December and January, yo, man, I might take my chances, because it's just, you can't get comfortable. And I remember, this was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was teaching, and thank God I co-teach online this semester, because I was co-teaching, and, again, like the sweat started to, do. And because I'm co-teaching, I was just able to discreetly turn my camera off, during one of my writing groups. Sometimes I'm like, listen, I'm going to be, but I think, a lot of the women in the group kind of, know where I'm coming from with certain things. But I just told the woman that runs the group one time, I said, listen, I am flashing. I'm not going to be turning my camera on, because it just, yeah, you just look like you're in Flashdance, or or let me think of a movie where there's a lot of water or sweat on someone. I don't know. It doesn't look appealing. And then you can see me like, so there's that too. All right. So that's that. So I don't know if that helped anyone, but just, I think that should be actually a part of the conversation, when kids are learning, right, about reproductive systems and, the birds and the bees, whatever, how that stuff works. And I know, like, people might say, oh, and then, it ends eventually, da 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 da. But as a woman, it's just, again, from the ages of 10 to almost 43, you have this thing that happens every month. And then it's just kind of like, oh, it's going to go away. And that's pretty much the most information that you get about it. And then, I do take accountability of, like, needing to be more curious about the things that my body is capable and incapable of. But, part of the reason why is because people are just like, oh, you turn 50, it goes away. Oh, okay. Yeah, you hot flash. Oh, okay. But that does not embody the experience of, I have been trained and socialized in this skin suit that does particular things. And what does it mean when those particular things stop? Who am I? What do I offer? What do I bring? Like, it's a moment. And I'm working through it. Successfully, I don't know. Come back, please. I'll give you an update. So that is that. Anywho, my pen's running out here. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is Diddy. Yep. I'm not actually going to spend that much time, because I feel like, the coverage, it is what it is, and it's so extensive. You can definitely, get people looking at it from a legal standpoint, in terms of whether it's the music industry, whether it's family law, because, his kids are in different places and stuff like that. And with him being wherever he is, employment law, like, I mean, it's just RICO charges. I mean, anything that you want legally, you can examine that, because I mean, it feels like at this point he's been accused of everything except being the Antichrist. So if they tell me tomorrow that Sean Diddy Combs is the Antichrist, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, somebody mentioned cannibalism. I'm like, come on now. What is going on? I don't know. It's not funny. I don't know how to respond. So here's the thing. You know, a lot of people are taking it to, well, he's not the person in charge. So whatever these enterprises are, I mean, because if we're honest, right, the things he's being accused of, the trafficking, it looks like there might be a degree of guns and laundering and drugs and because his name is being connected to several different people. So, you know, people are like, oh, well, he wasn't the one in charge. Like, well, why does he have to take the fall for this? When I first heard about the case that, Cassie Ventura, who was his ex-girlfriend of 10 years, when I first heard about, oh, that was my dog, if you heard her, the allegations that she was coming forth with, I think I said at the time something to the effect that, like, even if 10% of it was true, that, 1% of it was true, that's horrible, and, let the law deal with it accordingly. And I still feel that way to a certain extent, but I'm going to take it a little further than that. I actually don't believe that it makes a difference if he's innocent or guilty of any of this. And I'll say why in a second. Okay. So here's the thing. I did at one point want to work in entertainment. And, just based on that brief experience, the industry at the time did not seem palatable. And I wasn't even aware of, all this type of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Hold on. Okay. Let's go. Yeah, the dog, she needed to go touch grass or something, so I'll let her out. So I wasn't even aware of all of it at the time, but I was just kind of like, no, because it's just, as a creative person, I don't like to be pigeonholed. I want to do what I want to do. I want to create what I want to create, and that's not how it works, right? So you have to be realistic about that. And so, I stopped pursuing that avenue. But, I'm very much aware, right, that there are ways that you align yourself, right, with power, which is not really different from any other industry. But here's the thing. When you align yourself with power, there always gets to be that level where you have to make a really tough choice. And now, luckily or unluckily for Mr. Combs, he is super intelligent, right? He's a good businessman to a certain extent, right? Because his career is extensive. His music catalog is undeniable. Like, some of those early albums, that first Jodeci album, Mary J. Blige, My Life that's one of the best R&B joints ever. You can't tell me anything about that album, okay? So, this isn't about, like, any type of personal animus to Puff, but you had, something going for you to the point where you could be in the rooms, right? And that's what... if we widen our scope a little bit, that's what ambitious, intelligent, imaginative, creative Black people, that's all we want. We just, we want to be in the room, Some people are a little more ambitious than that, and we definitely should be more ambitious than that, but a lot of us are not. And so once you're getting into those rooms with the real power brokers, the people that, run our universe right now, not our individual universe, but our shared reality at this moment. There are definitely collections of people that run that. Let's not, who are we kidding? Now, whatever groups you want to call it, I don't care about that either. So for me, can I live in freedom and do what I want to do and move the way that I need to move? Or am I under-resourced? Do I have an obstacle? Right? And so to me, if you want to call it a word that, starts with I and rhymes with Pavarotti, all right? If you want to call it that or something else, we don't need to get into a conspiracy, right? We are aware that there are billionaires, right, and power brokers that say, well, no, I don't want that new policy from the EPA, or no, this candidate, he can't run, she can't run. So that stuff happens. How does this relate to Diddy? Because again, he had that drive, that intelligence, that charisma. He's a charismatic dude. If what people are saying is true in terms of the intimidation, the sexual abuse, and so on and so forth, but y'all all still coming around this guy? Really? Okay. So I'll get to that part as well. But when you're in those rooms with those power brokers, right, you are making a decision, right? If I'm with these people, if I'm aligned with these people and something happens, they're the top and shit rolls downhill. So that's all we're seeing right now. The shit is rolling downhill, and it just happened to be on Diddy's hill. And so I saw someone covering the issues today, and he was just like, oh, well, who did he traffic? They didn't give any names. I'm like, because my understanding is that the case that directly relates to trafficking, the woman was 17 years old at the time, and they took her across state lines. So if she was a minor, you're not going to know her name. So I'm bringing this up because, just try to, deal with what's being presented, right? So there are allegations, there, charges and everything being presented, right? So you believe it or you don't believe it, or you wait, to see what happens. But I don't like the whole, he's a hip hop mogul, people are just jealous, and now everybody's coming after him. That can't be all that this stuff is, right? Because is some of it embellished or not true? Oh, definitely, right? The guy Little Roddy, the latest set of allegations, if it did feel funny, right? So I think, that some of that is he's either omitting things or, blowing things out of proportion. Not with everything. I'm just speaking generally. But again, that doesn't matter, right? Because you were in that room with those people and they wanted to put you on. And they said, this is what you're going to do for us. And he did it. So they punched your ticket. It is what it is, right? So he wants to try to move how he's moving. Allegedly, he was trying to leave the country. I'm not sure where he is now. They said, oh, did he try to take his daughters because they're minors or not? Oh, did he know that, the FBI and Homeland Security, that they were coming to all of the homes and he purposefully left his sons there to get arrested and let it go. I think the biggest thing that you can learn from this is that that hyper capitalism, right? Which, because of the way he positioned himself, right? Sean Combs was definitely a part of, right, promoting that image of like, this wealth, right, needs to look like this. Luxury, right, and enjoying that luxury needs to look like this, and it needs to be this public, and you need to have this many people involved, so on and so forth. And so I think so many people in the pursuit of that hyper capitalist reality, they're always going to get you on the back end. Like, there's no way around stuff, folks. Like, if you come from certain backgrounds, I don't know much about Diddy personally, right? But, as a fellow New Yorker, I'm from Queens and Brooklyn, like, I would, if I moved the way he did, I would wholly expect this to be happening right now. Because that's what they hired you for, right? Like, you are the connector, right? So that's the biggest thing it seems like he does. And I've always said this about him, that his energy, he taps into people quickly. And I think that that's why he's successful as a connector. But, the stuff that he has access to and the stuff that he knows, nobody, they don't want that out there, right? Are you okay, sweets? She is coughing. And then there seems like there is a rough connection trying to be made with the royal family. I'm not going to look that up on my work computer, but hold on. I'm just putting my next topic in. But yeah, right. So if I believe, and then part of it is I'm trying to be like a little vague here, because I don't know legally the things that I'm saying, where that stands. Excuse me. Not because someone would sue me necessarily, but just because I don't want this video taken down. So yes, brain fog. So I was talking about, right, he, Let's for a second. So yes, he did the job that the people, he's aligned with wanted him to do. And then, now it's like, okay, well, everything, ends with you, right? So I don't know how that ends, and it might not go as planned, right? Diddy doesn't seem to me like the type of person who's gonna go down with the ship and not take a ton of people with him. He definitely seems like he will. But there's no honor among thieves. And I keep pulling these aphorisms out because that it is what it is. Like, you can't say, oh, I'm, and this is totally hypothetical, having, as a metaphor. This is not Diddy. But if I, Deanne, was hired as a contract killer, right? And I say, okay, well, here's person X, and I kill for them. I wouldn't be surprised when person X throws me under the bus. We're doing some dastardly shit, right? So when you do dastardly shit, the bill is due. The bill is due. That's all it is. And so that's why I'm saying, like, it just, if he did all of it, now if he did none of it, then I would say he's done something else, right? They have to have that compromise to, like, dig into people. So they have things on him. And again, the they doesn't matter, right? I'm just dealing with how it affects us in our material world. So how does that come to pass? So the first thing is, the diversion tactics. And it's, I appreciate, I don't know the person who posted this on X, but there was a person on X who as soon as, they saw the feds at his house in LA, they saw Justin, they saw Christian, and they were just like, diversion. I was like, yes, diversion. So that doesn't mean that they should not, pursue justice if, for whatever he's done. But it's just interesting, let's say, right, when an entire bridge has fallen in a major American city, but I'm at the moment seeing more coverage on Puff Daddy. So, I do think, right, it affects us partially in that way. And then, the second part that I started saying earlier was, it's just such an indictment of everybody that's been around him for all these freaking years. Like, he's not, and I was talking about this concept with my students. Let me look it up here so I can explain it correctly. So, there was this concept, right, in the earlier part of modern Europe, of a whipping boy, right? Which, people might have heard the slang term like, oh, I'm not your whipping boy. Like, oh, everybody's not going to blame me for everything. But what it actually was is, you'd have a prince, right? And he had a whipping boy. And so the whipping boy would take all of his physical punishments for anything that he did that was seen, as, incorrect or, naughty. And so an actual person, right, to take the fall, right, for the monarch, which is basically what we're seeing. Now, it's not a direct correlation, right, because a whipping boy was a child, right, and didn't have a choice. But what I'm saying to you is, if you can choose the long road, or if you can choose the den of vipers, the vipers bite you in your ass. That's all that's happening. It's just, the people who get into this is like Michael Jackson and R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. They don't want black men to be wealthy. They're taking a black man down. Is that untrue? No. Am I going to cash that in for Diddy? No. At the same time, I'm not out there with a pitchfork. You see what I mean? Like, let the ruling class do what the ruling class is going to do. And I'll be over here trying to make it through premenopause and, get through my life. But yeah, it's just really, I feel badly for his daughters, because my understanding is they're seniors in high school. So they're at an age where, they're still children, but, right, they're coming into adulthood at such, losing their mother at such a young age. And then their father engaged in whatever he's engaged in. If that was me, my head would be spinning. Like, I wouldn't know. I would have questions about my identity. Like, who am I? That I was born to two people. One is gone, and the other, again, has been called everything but Antichrist at this point. Like, that's really heavy. That's a lot to deal with. Okay. And so, excuse me, per usual, I wasn't expecting to spend that long on that topic, but it's just like, you know, and I don't, the other people or whatever, like, oh, you know, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Jonathan Majors, whoever, it's just like, if that's the argument, that can't be the only argument when you get hemmed up. You see what I mean? If the argument is this is happening to Sean Combs because he's a black man that made it into those rooms and people don't want him in those rooms, then we should always have an awareness of that, not just when, you know, stuff is down to the wire for you. Like, this isn't the same thing at all. But, and I've spoken about this before, Byron Allen, he was black for like 2 seconds when, you know, he was, did the Monopoly trial. Hold on a second here. I just want to look up the details because this is something that was important and I don't, you know, want to misspeak on it. All right. So if you're unfamiliar with him, I remember him primarily as a comedian because, you know, he would come on after the late night shows. But he lost a $100 million fraud suit in regards to ad spending on black media, right? So he owns, you know, the Weather Channel, you know, he owns media properties, and I think you put in bids when you have channels and stuff to get advertisers to advertise with you, and they wouldn't. McDonald's, based on his share of the market in terms of how many eyes and ears that he reaches, you know, I guess McDonald's didn't want to, you know, play hardball, and so he said, well, I'm being discriminated against in this space. I should have, you know, equal access to the revenue since, you know, I have the numbers, I have the viewership. But like there was that, and then I think there was another. I think he was trying to buy a media property and they didn't let him do it. But the long and the short of, you know, that I'm bringing it up is because I'm like, oh, wow, Byron Allen's black? I never heard this man talk about being black ever before. And to be fair to him, he might have. But I would just see him on TV on late nights, and then after he was off television, never saw him again, right? So I don't know how he feels, you know, about black liberation, which is, if you haven't noticed, I'm obsessed with it. I want it. I want to live it. I want to have children that live it. I want to have grandchildren and a full legacy that have that. And we're not there. So when you come to me and you're saying, oh, this thing is happening to me because I'm a creative, powerful, ambitious black man and they don't want me in this space, let's hear about that in a proactive way and not just when you get hemmed up, when you lose a lawsuit, when the feds arrest your kids and stuff like that, you know? Let's have that, you know, mentality before terrible things happen, right? And so it doesn't have to just be this retroactive, like, oh, you're just doing this to me because I'm black. That was what the Lori Lightfoot concession speech felt like. Lori Lightfoot, she was the mayor of Chicago before, I believe, Brandon Johnson. And then, you know, people asked her, like, well, you know, why do you think you were unsuccessful, so on and so forth. And she brought up the fact that she was black. But it's like, but how did you treat your people? If you want your people to ride for you, you have to be down for the agenda of black liberation 24/7. Not just, oh, okay, I'm rich and I'm hemmed up now. Like, does that make sense? Or I'm a political pawn and I'm hemmed up now. Or Candace Owens, I'm a pawn of white supremacy and extreme right-wing media, and I'm getting hemmed up now. Black people, hey, big head, what's up? Like, miss me with all of that, have integrity before something bad happens, right? So then it's like, oh damn, they got all these charges on Diddy, but all of the stuff that he did for the community over here, and the beautiful, heartfelt things people have said about him that know him personally, and da 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 da. And so, you know what I mean? So people can then weigh the scales and it can look a little better. But right now it's, on this end, again, maintaining innocence, integrity, so on and so forth. And then all the horrible, fucked up shit that people are saying about you, bro. Like, it almost feels like people have been cataloging and waiting. Like, when they get him, I'm going all the fuck, like, I'm going all the way in. And that's what it seems like is happening. But it's just, you sat there and watched all of this happen. It's just the passion that people have about the things that Diddy has allegedly done. It's just like, were you that passionate when it was happening? When people were getting trafficked and drugged and threatened and cars blown up or whatever else? I'm not that type of person. Like, I don't give people credit for this moral revisionism, right? I was raised that, if there is injustice going on in front of you and you are a bystander, then you're a participant. You need to, say something, leave, I don't know. And, a lot of people say, oh, that's not realistic because of how powerful these people are or how the entertainment industry is. And it just comes back to having a code, because they're gaining that energy and power partially from the ways in which the people around them consent to these situations. So, situational blackness. Like, every other day, all lives matter. But, somebody's trying to take money from me. Oh my God, you guys. I'm so black. Why are they doing this to me? Here's my dashiki. Here's me singing Negro spirituals as I am persecuted by the government or whoever else. It's just, I'm being facetious, but I really don't like when Black public figures, again, who are not, like, so for instance, give you, I think this is a good example. Viola Davis. If Viola Davis said that she was being persecuted for being a Black woman, I'm writing for her all day, every day, right? Because she's had difficult conversations in public on a regular basis from as long as I've been aware of her and her career. I have respect for that. I've never seen her equivocate around issues of injustice and inequality. Not to say that she hasn't. I just haven't seen it. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is Poland, because that was something that I saw here about 20 minutes before I went live. So we all know Poland, right? In Eastern Europe, or is it considered Central? I've always considered it Eastern. I might be wrong about that. We've got, Poland in Eastern Europe. That is also in NATO. All right. And so 2 days ago, and this is an article from the AP, Reuters. No, I'm sorry, AP. And it says, Poland demands explanation from Russia after a missile enters its airspace during attack on Ukraine. All right. Poland demanded an explanation from Russia on Sunday after one of its missiles strayed briefly into Polish airspace during a major missile attack on Ukraine, prompting the NATO member to activate F-16 fighter jets. Okay. Do I need to explain any further? I'll read a little bit and then we'll move on to the next article. I'm just looking for these are very specific details as to the weaponry and the timing and stuff like that. I want to know the fallout at this point. See, this is kind of what happens with you if you watch coverage on YouTube and different things and then you go look at articles. I like to, in the moment while I'm watching, look up the article that the person is looking at to just make sure it's, something reputable, something that I would actually click on. But then after the fact, sometimes I forget the wording to pull up the right one. Okay. Yeah, so I think that that's enough from that. Now, the next update, hold on. Okay. All right. So this is the one from Reuters because I want you to see the progression. So Sunday, they were in the Russians were in the Polish airspace, right? So then the Polish folks were like, no, you need to send us an envoy, right? So we can work this out because what you guys are doing is not cool. So then this article from Reuters, Russian envoy ignores summons over missile that Poland says enters this airspace. Y'all, this is going so bad. This is bad. Because again, we're talking about the music industry, but these powerful people, it's all the same fucking people, right? It's a short list of people and they've got their hands in everything. And you think that they're not spending their time oh, here's another Diddy meme and da-da-da-da. While this is going on, while bridges are falling down, our priorities are not correct. The Russian ambassador to Poland ignored a summons to appear at the country's foreign ministry on Monday after Warsaw said a missile launched at targets in western Ukraine violated its airspace. Poland's military said its defense radar systems recorded a missile entering the country's airspace for 39 seconds and encroaching 1.24 miles into Polish territory before returning to Ukraine. So it looks like the pilot dipped in and was like, oh shit, and then came back out. But they were like, nah, you can't do that. Poland will decide on the next steps in coming days as it cannot ignore such a, quote, sign of contempt. Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister Vladislav Kosniak I try to pronounce names. I would need to so if I see his name again, I'll look it up. That might not be a man, but I'm assuming Vladislav sounds masculine. I don't know. But this is bad, right? So it's a sign of contempt. So Poland is like, oh, you want to play it like this, right? They're really acting like they're on the schoolyard and not as if we're and ignoring the fact that this is like World War III that we're talking about here. So NATO, right? Allegedly, NATO, if you violate NATO airspace, right, that is going to put all of NATO on alert, because it's like, well, if, something happens to one country, everybody else has to jump in. And so this little tit for tat over less than a mile and a half is like, this could pop off at any time. Okay. And so again, going back to why the Diddy situation it's at a moral level and at an individual level, it's not inconsequential. I want to be very clear. I don't minimize or dismiss the suffering of people that go through any type of, intimidation, abuse, so on and so forth. But what I'm saying to you is that it should not capture the American imagination at this juncture in time. Cover, trials and stuff like that or updates, but we got problems. All right. So a little bit more serious today versus the last couple of episodes, but thank you for your time. Hopefully you might watch sorry, stepped on a dog paw. Hopefully you might watch the replay on YouTube, same channel, The Composite with Deanne Battle, or here on Instagram, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we're back tomorrow at 11:30-ish. I'll be here. I'll send a missive and then ask you to send a fan or something. All right. Take care. Bye.